Good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever it is in your world. My name is Ameera Mer Healer, and you are listening to Tales from the Mer World Radio. This is a show where we explore the ancient lands like Atlantis, Lemuria, and even Avalon. This is a show where I take you a little bit deeper into esoteric concepts, mythology, theology, and all this esoteric information that we sometimes read about in books, see about in movies, read about on social media, or even kind of know in our souls that we have a connection to these places and to these beings and to these elementals, that we have a connection to things that aren't really written in the history books and things that we explore while we're growing up. My name is Ameera, and I live on the beautiful island of Kauai. You can find me at ameerabath.com, and you can also find my YouTube channel under Ameera Mer Healer. And if you've missed, I think this is my 14th episode now, and if you've missed some previous episodes, you can get yourself all caught up on there. Throughout my season, I've had some really wonderful guests. We've talked about all kinds of topics, including Atlantis, Lemuria, Avalon, and my specialty, which is the Mer people. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about, we all know we're going through these really epic earth changes happening right now. And there seems to be kind of so much conflict in the air, and so many people feeling kind of polarized or separate and unsure and angry and confused, and all the things that humanity is now going through as we attempt to do what I call is course correcting the fall of Atlantis. And really the goal of my show is to bring awareness and information from my personal remembrances, from my wisdom, from my knowledge that comes from my lifetimes in Atlantis and my lifetimes as a Mer being who came up from the great kingdom of Merlantis and came onto land and helped the Atlanteans. So if you have an affinity to mer beings, and let's face it, mermaids are kind of everywhere right now. We're very iconographic around the globe. If you have an affinity to the mer people, if you have an affinity to, the mysteries of Atlantis and Lemuria, then I'm going to go in a little bit deeper into how those lifetimes, particularly the last fall of Atlantis, is paralleling some of the things that are happening today in today's world. And today I happen to also have the magnificent presence of my beloved consort, who is Poseidon. I'm an incarnation of ocean mother goddess Yamaya, who hails from Africa. She is the ocean mother goddess, and her beloved is King Poseidon, or sometimes known as Neptune. And I've been in a lot of communication, a lot of connection with Poseidon these days. And shortly before the show came on, he came in and he said he would really like to walk beside me today during the show and utilize him as an additional channel to help talk to you a little bit more about the Mer people and the agenda and the goal of the Mer people, and how we have come back through time and space, through dimensions, to help assist the earth, not only in her ascension, but in the healing of the heart of humanity. And right now it feels like the heart of humanity is in need of a lot of tender, loving care. The heart of humanity, how we have all managed to be a witness and be present on a time when the earth is going through such dramatic changes. And when we go through dramatic changes, when we move forward into an age where information is coming to us, and we're becoming aware of maybe how we got to where we got, how we got here, and then we have to look in how to fix that, how to correct that. A lot of emotions come up, a lot of feelings, and a lot of feelings and emotions that often don't translate very well into something positive. So today I want to talk to you about how we are going to bridge between the 3D world and the 5D world, what that means, how I am told that we are about to start to doing that, and then why even we're doing this in the first place. What happened during the last fall of Atlantis 13,000 years ago that is requiring, this dramatic event, this animation, I sometimes like to call it, as as we move through all these earth changes. And when I talk about animation, it's a word that I use very lovingly. We are all experiencing and witnessing all these different scenarios that are happening, all these different experiences, all these different extremes, all these different groups of people, sometimes getting along, sometimes not getting along. And, the protests that are happening on the planet, all these things are part of the matrix simulation. And, you see the little bubbles behind me in my beautiful Jean-Luc Barzilai imagery. And, to me, these bubbles really represent, our Earth is surrounded by this amazing matrix, by this amazing grid that is kind of like a simulation, really. Sometimes I feel a little bit like we are in some kind of a video game. And that maybe the me, you're looking at me as Ameera, that I am some kind of an avatar coming in from, some other world or reality or a spaceship, and I projected myself here on this planet in this body, in this form, to have certain experiences, to have a human experience, to find out what it's like to be part of humanity, to go through all the trials and tribulations, and then come into, my purpose and my message for this planet. And I think many of you who are out there, and many of you who are listening to me right now, this world that we live in sometimes really doesn't seem real. There are moments when I look at this planet and it seems so magnificent and it seems so beautiful, and there's so much magic around. And then there are moments when I look at this planet and I think, how can something so majestic and so beautiful and so captivating, that smells so good and looks so good, how can there be all this strife and this discordance and all this kind of imbalance between what I think and what you think and how you perceive and how I perceive? How can that be? And it really feels like to me, and I think it's even been proven in science and quantum physics, that we kind of live in a quantum universe. We live in a reality that is filled with subatomic particles, teeny tiny particles, atomic particles, that create a version of this earth that feels very, very real to our 3D senses, but is actually created through the eye of the observer, the eye of you, or the eye of me. So it's an animation, it's a simulation. And how we perceive this reality and the meanings we assign to it are basically what creates our feelings. It basically is what creates our experiences. Sometimes our experiences can be created in a really wonderful, magnificent way. Sometimes our earth experiences are created through, drama and through trauma and through pain and through suffering. And it's the meanings we assign to this that really create the lens of our perception. So as we go through today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I really want you to know what happened after the last fall of Atlantis. What really happened that created this ripple effect out into the cosmos that has created this now 13,000 years later, when we are going through this process of, course correcting, with many of us coming back down to earth to rejoin in this reality, course correcting and healing up the spiral of time that we've become so familiar with calling, the rewriting of the spiral of Atlantis. I'm going to talk a little bit about also what the effect was on the mer beings, on the mer world, who were so connected to Atlantis. And if you have any questions, if you feel like you'd like to call me with a question about today's topic or any topic, you can go ahead and take a look at the number on the screen. You can give me a phone call. I'd be happy to chat you up, and I will see you back in just a few minutes after our break. Good morning. You're listening to Tales from the Mer World Radio with me, Ameera Beth, Mer Healer. If you're just joining us, this is a program where we explore the ancient lands of Atlantis and Lemuria. And my topic for today's show is bridging the 3D with the 5D timelines. So I'm going to jump back into our topics today. But before I do that, I want to let you know that if you want to locate me, if you would like to do some work with me, I'm a past life regression healer. I'm a past life regression facilitator. And I also do 13 chakra clearings and openings and teach about the 13 chakras, which was part of the Atlantean system for keeping their physical bodies and their energetic bodies strong. You can find me at ameerabeth.com. I also am a big fan of sacred geometry. And if you like sacred geometry or curious about it, I have a wonderful clothing line called Wisdom Wear. You can find that through ameerabeth.com, or you can go to wisdomwear.org, and I actually crystal infuse crystal particles and our crystals into organic clothing, and then screen print sacred geometry onto clothing. So some really fun ways to work with me or get in touch with me. And then also I have an Instagram, wisdomwear_Kauai, and you can follow me on that as well. So while we are on our break, I got a request from a fan to talk a little bit more about what life was like in the great kingdom of Atlantis. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more about what it looked like there through my eyes or through my remembrance. And if you have your own remembrance as well, you might just kind of close your eyes and stay with my words, and we'll just take a little walk through Atlantis. And towards the end of the show, I'd like to do a little meditation with you, like a little mini regression. And we'll go back and we'll have a visit, and you'll be able to see for yourself if you'd like to. So what I remember most about Atlantis is that, of course, everybody talks about the temples, right? and my temple, my healing temple was the temple of Poseidon. And Poseidon is my beloved. And he also wants me to talk a little bit more about beloved unions in Atlantis and in the Mer world. So I'll do that in a few minutes. But the Temple of Poseidon was the great temple, was the greatest temple, largest temple on the entire continent of Atlantis. And it sat right at the shoreline. And this was a great temple that not only housed, the water energy and the water beings, and was dedicated to Poseidon. There was a great cavern underneath where the healing caverns and the healers and the teachers and the beings of Atlantis would go down underneath and receive their treatments and receive their healings. The temple of Poseidon was gold and crystal. It was like, if you want to envision marbleized gold and crystal, iridescent, see-through, but not. And it's very hard for me to explain. It was clear, see-through, but also not. So it was like, if you stood in the right space in the sun, if you had the right angle, you could actually see from one side of the walls to the other. You could see very clearly within. Standing in front of it, it was completely opaque. It looked like this beautiful shimmering monument. There were dolphins, figures of dolphins jumping, and of course water fountains, ponds, all over. You could hear water everywhere you went, and in the middle was a great statue, a great creation of King Poseidon, because it was his temple. As you left the Temple of Poseidon, and there were different ways that you could enter and exit into Atlantis. The Temple of Poseidon was actually the entrance for the mer people, for the mer beings like myself who came up out of the water and then walked into the great Temple of Poseidon in order to be of assistance. There was a portal where the mer beings would come up and they would be allowed to transform. We could transform and grow legs for 12 hours or so, about a 12-hour stint, and we could go into the temple and work with the Atlanteans and teach them and help them. That was the portal for the mer people. Other portals for Atlantis, other pathways in were all entrances were by harbors, or by where great ships or great boats could land. And when I say ships, I'm not only talking about, boats, literal ships, but the spaceships. When Ohana, the family members, those who came to stay at Atlantis, would show up, they would come in through, it was literally called a harbor. And their boats or their ships would dock there, and the new arrivals would come in, or those transferring in and out would come in and out. And then there were these portals, or these gateways, these big archways that they would come through in order to receive whatever they needed to receive in the way of clothing or goods or things like that. They would be greeted by other Atlanteans who would then help them into their housing, help them to the appropriate temple that they were going to, go to the parliament buildings, go visit. You could come and you could visit family, you could visit friends and things like that. So there was kind of like this big information center that welcomed all and helped all onto the continent of Atlantis. And remember, Atlantis was very, very vast. It was larger than any landmass that we have going on right now. So there are many, many entrances and exits to Atlantis, but beings had to come in through one of those gateways in order to come onto the land. So Atlantis, there were many, many cities and many, many sub-cities. There was one major city of Atlantis. It was called the City of Atlantis. And some of the beings called it some other names as well. And as you walked in, Atlanta was set up a little bit like, maybe some of the suburbs and things in our modern day cities, where there were actually suburbs. There were actually communities of housings that were just outside the city, that were all created as round structures, spheres. All the homes were created in spheres. There was lots of flowers. There was lots of fountains. There was lots of beautiful walkways and pathways, lots of greenery, lots of trees, lots of foliage, lots of gardens. And every home, every dwelling had lots of space around it. So it wasn't these little crowded housing developments like we see now. Every dwelling, every family had lots and lots of space to have their own space, for their children to run, for their children to play, and to feel like they had a sense of I guess I'll use the word privacy, but a better word might be just a little bit of, seclusion in their own space. Because they were experiencing being humans for the very first time, and because they had very big energy fields. The Atlanteans had very big energy fields. And because they had very large energy fields, that, like most of us who are maybe extroverted people or very outgoing people, we take up a lot of space. So the Atlanteans were allowed to feel like, because they were confined in a human body, which was much different than their bodies, than their 5D bodies coming down into a 3D, they were allowed to feel like they had a lot of space around them and a lot of openness around them. And when we have openness around us, there's freedom in that. When we are clumped too closely together, there's a restriction in that. So in order for them to really experience having 5 senses, and being, just being really open and attuned to their environment, the homes were very spaced apart. Beautiful neighborhoods filled with all kinds of colors and all kinds of trees and all kinds of foliage and grass and gardens. And the air smelled beautiful. There were always animals all around. There were animals and birds that we would traditionally know, and then there were some animals and some birds that were maybe more proprietary to, you know, a mythical civilization that existed as well. Animals that I believe we will again once see and experience once the veil begins to thin and the veil begins to drop. But there was always all kinds of wildlife around. The children of Atlantis, especially, were all given pets. Every household had a cat. The cat was kind of the protector of the environment. There was a form of a dog-like creature there. They weren't dogs like we know in our real life here, but they were a form of original canine that families could take on if they wanted to. And again, there were always animals around, and the animals lived harmoniously. So there was no, you know, cat chasing a chicken like we have here on Kauai, or dog chasing a cat, or some kind of a predator animal going after a deer-like kind of an animal. That just didn't happen. They all existed and cohabitated harmoniously, and the animals were vegetarian. So I want you to keep in mind that even mammals that we know in our time who would eat meat naturally, their vibration was different in Atlantis. They weren't quite the 3D types of animals with the instinctual killing that we experience today. They were very, very pure in their spirit. And another thing that was very prominent in Atlantis was swans. The Atlanteans loved swans, black swans and white swans. They loved the idea of the purity of the essence that swans held. And of course, because swans represent lovers, swans mate for life, the Atlanteans came to Atlantis to be with, to find and or be with their mate for life. So anytime a couple got married, anytime beloveds came together who were generally called a twin flame, they were given a set of swans to keep into their yard, and their yards would have a pool or a pond or something for the swans. And that was a representation of their union, of their everlasting union. So we had the beautiful suburbs, we have the beautiful houses, and it was always just a short commute, a short walk into the cities. And after we come back, I'll talk a little bit more about what Atlantean cities were like. I'll see you soon. Aloha and welcome back to Tales from the Mer World Radio. I am Ameera Mer Healer, and today we are talking about bridging 3D and 5D and what it means to take our consciousness, to take our awareness, and like to cross that bridge over from the five sensory world into the magical world of 5D, which in my opinion, my experience is really, really the reality. You know, the simulation that we have here on Earth is a wonderful experience. And one of the ways I really feel that we heal ourselves and how we return to that magical child and that idea that we really can have peace on Earth, because Atlantis really was heaven on Earth. It really was Utopia. In order for us to be able to anchor that in and to believe that is true, sometimes we have to have memories within us unlocked that Lemuria really did and really does exist in another dimension, that Atlantis really did and really does still exist. We are here kind of acting in, you know, we're an aspect of our higher self, but we have many, many aspects. We have many, many versions of ourselves in many different realities. And you and I have versions of ourselves in Atlantis and Lemuria that are just as alive and as well and as just as real as the one we're experiencing today. So one of the things I really love to do in life is take people on journeys or take people on a past life regression into another realm of reality, especially Atlantis or especially Lemuria, and let people remember for themselves what that life was like, what they looked like, who they were, what they were doing, and what that experience was like. And what that does is it really unlocks those memories in ourselves and allows us to draw on our higher self, you know, our high wise self and our soul experience for ourselves to let us feel what it's like and experience what it's like to visit ourselves in another reality. And it feels very, very important right now that as you know the earth moves through her acceleration, that we start to build that bridge for ourselves and start to bring in a anchor in a reality that heaven on earth is possible again, and that the storms we are in right now, you know, all the animations that are happening are really going to pass in time. And part of what is going to help them pass is if we start to co-create and remember these realities again and these possibilities again as one. So a little bit further into this program, I'm going to do a meditation with you. I'm actually going to walk you through a little mini past life regression into Atlantis. When we left off, I was talking about what the cities were like, and as you would approach the cities, as you would make the short walk or the short commute into the beautiful cities, of course, everything was crystalline, marble looking, crystalline, beautiful, translucent, glowing temples or crystals. There were many, many temples that were scattered throughout the city. There were also parliament buildings, which would be government buildings. There were, there were buildings where you could go. There were buildings where you could go and you could pray if you wanted to and talk to your mentors and teachers that were different than the temples. These were different little dwellings where you could actually go and talk to a being from another planet, for example, somebody who was from not of your planet. And you could learn about their civilization, and you could learn about their life, and you could learn about what their form, what they looked like. And because the beings were 5D, you know, although they held a form in Atlantis, they could also shapeshift if you wanted them to and show you what their other form looked like. And this is a way for these community centers, or a way that beings could learn about each other. We could learn about our sameness. We could learn about our differences. We could learn what makes us unique, and also learn about what made them all one. And this was a very important part of keeping the unification of Atlantis together, was the joy of discovering the differences in between you and between your neighbor, or between, you know, somebody else that you worked alongside of. And as you came through Atlantis, the great city of Atlantis, and all the little townships, there were always gardens, there were always fountains, there was always nature. Nature was very, very important to them. All the elements were included in the formations, not only of the structures in the temples, but in the formations in general of how the land was laid out. It was very important to the Atlanteans that they honor the elements, you know, all 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and the element of spirit. So all those things were incorporated into setting up a city that was very diverse, that was very efficient, that was very calm, that was very peaceful, and was just an overall wonderful place to be and exist for all times. Conversely, the Mer world, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the Mer world was like. The Mer world, where I come from, was very, very similar to how Atlantis was laid out, except of course it was underwater. The Atlanteans actually took the prototype of the Mer world and built Atlantis from it. And that was with the help of Metatron, who is a great mentor of mine. He was the architect of Atlantis, and he set everything up in Atlantis according to sacred geometry. Poseidon was also on the Great Council, because he, of course, was the king of Merlantis. And because sacred geometry is, I mean, water is actually made of sacred geometry. Water particles, snowflakes even, are living, moving, breathing geometry. So they took the prototype, or take the examples of how Merlantis was laid out, how the city was developed, how the dwellings were developed, and then they just basically moved that up into a sister city known as the Great Kingdom of Atlantis. And the Mer people were a very big part of assisting the Atlanteans into integrating into, you know, into their new digs, into their new homes. We would come up out of the water, and we would grow our legs, and we would meet with them, and we would help them with nature cycles. We would help them with moon cycles. We would help them with the honoring of their five senses and the discovery of their five senses and how to work within that, but then also stay in touch with the esoteric and stay in touch with the spirit element. See, what else did I want to talk about? The Mer people, you know, we are here on this planet today because we really, really do love humanity. We came up from the Mer because we really enjoy working with people. We enjoy interacting with human beings. In the Mer world, you know, we have each other, but then we mostly interact with the sea life. You know, we are in full interaction and in communication with all forms of sea life because that's what we are. And really, we see ourselves as no separation from them. They are swimming through our world and swimming through our buildings and our homes and our dwellings at all times. We have the sea turtles, we have all the whales, we have all the fishes. They are like family to us. There is literally no separation from us. And in another episode, I talk a little bit about what the Mer people actually look like. That we actually don't look like, you know, the beautiful mer beings and the paintings and the sculptures of modern day. We actually look very fish-like. We actually look more like, you know, the fish and about like the sea creatures. We look a little bit more prehistoric than people might think. So, you know, we basically just fit right in with them. They are our family. We are their family. We have telepathic communication with them. They help us with different things. You know, they help us with the different community events and things that we have to do for Atlantis. You know, the dolphins will come in, and if we need help, you know, moving something from somewhere else, the dolphins will assist us with their sonar. We have sonar also, but their sonar is very, very special. Their sonar is attuned to joy and play. So when we have to do different tasks and things like that around the Mer world, they will come in and they will actually add their sonar to anything we have to move or anything we have to shift, and then make that project a little bit more fun and a little bit more joyous for us. So hopefully by now you have a little bit more of a feeling of what maybe Merlantis is like and what Atlantis is like. And if you would like, I will take you on a little journey. And if you've never had a journey or past life regression before, um, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's a natural state for all of us. We all go into meditation, or all go into kind of altered states in and out of our life, kind of when we zone off and somebody goes, hey, are you listening? We've actually been in a little bit of an altered state. It's just relaxation and focus. So I'm going to talk you down into a very light state of trance and just ask you to tune into yourself and into your own remembrances. And I will just give you a little walkthrough, a little meditation through your arrival onto the great Kingdom of Atlantis, and maybe the day that you stepped foot onto Atlantis, and see what comes up for you, okay? So I will invite you all to just take a moment and close your eyes. And just close your eyes and just focus in on your breath and blow out the day with your breath. Blow out any stress and just use your breath as a catalyst or a gateway to inhale and to exhale, and to relax and soften your body. And just, I'm going to give you an opportunity to take 3 cleansing breaths with me. Inhaling in through your nose and just exhaling and just letting everything in your days go. Second breath of an inhale and an exhale, and just calling your energy, calling your essence fully present in here. And a third breath, an inhalation and an exhalation, just feeling your crown chakra and your senses open up to all new possibilities to receive. And relaxing your forehead, relaxing the spot between your eyes, and letting that relaxation just move down your neck. Gentle waves of relaxation down into your arms and your hands. And just relax and settling the large muscles in your back, relaxing the back, bringing relaxation down into your chest and your stomach, letting go of any tension that might be there, and just allowing that relaxation to move down into your hips and thighs. Relaxing the knees and the shins and the calves, and allowing that relaxation to drop off into the earth, feeling fully present here, relaxed. In a moment, I'm going to count from 10 to 0. When I reach 0, you move into that deeper part of you that has access to all of your soul's history and your past life in Atlantis. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. You are feeling relaxed, tuned in, and focused. And out of your mind's eye, you see a doorway. And you may let this doorway show up in your mind's eye any way that feels right to you. The distance between you and this doorway is very, very short, and the pathway is open and clear. And as you focus on and tune into this doorway, you see it begin to light up. You see beautiful golden light pouring out from the doorway as it slowly begins to open, and you make your way down the short pathway to the doorway into your life as Atlantis. And here at the threshold, I will just ask you to set your intention that as you move through this beautiful, magical doorway, you will find yourself arriving onto Atlantis, arriving both feet planted in another time and another place. Move through the doorway now, and just notice what comes up. Take a moment and take a look around your environment and notice if this is daytime or nighttime. Notice if you are indoors or outdoors. Notice where you are at as you feel your feet or your fins or your hooves firmly planted in the great kingdom of Atlantis. What comes up? What do you see? All your senses are ignited as you begin to notice the smells and the sounds. As you begin to notice the feel of the air. Does the air feel cool or does it feel warm? Notice where you are standing. What does the ground beneath you look like? Go ahead and take a few steps and move deeper into Atlantis. Notice if there's any other beings around you. Notice if there are animals, trees. Notice if there are other people like you, or maybe different from you. And most of all, notice how you feel. How do you feel in this space? What's going on in your heart? And if you would like to take a couple of nice deep breaths and just anchor in a little bit deeper into your environment, go ahead. You might feel great emotion. You might feel lots of sensations. And as you are noticing where you're at and who you're with, I would next like you to notice the form you are in. So go ahead and down and look at your hands and arms, if that's what you have, and notice the color of your skin. Notice your clothing, if you have clothing. If you don't, that's okay too. Notice your feet. Notice if you have hair. If you get a sensation that you are glowing or maybe a different color than your normal human skin, that's very natural. Just trust it all. Observe your form and look out into the distance and notice what you see around you. Are you in a city or are you out in nature? Are there dwellings where you are at? And if so, what do they look like? I would like you to also look up at the sky above you. Or if you're indoors, look up at the ceiling above you and just notice what you notice. Remember your name in this lifetime. What are you called? Notice how it feels to be in your Atlantean form. Continue to walk on. If you are outdoors, just continue your stroll and notice what's around you. If you're indoors, notice the space around you. Is there furniture? What kind of structures are there? What stands out about your Atlantis experience or your Atlantis lifetime the most in this moment? Take a nice deep breath, eyes open wide and heart open wide, and just take in everything you can from your environment. If there is a message from your Atlantean self, listen for that now. We are going to bring this meditation this past life regression to completion by asking that anything you observed, anything you have felt, anything you noticed that is important to you on this timeline, in this reality, that will help you to bring forward and bridge and heal or stronger create your connection between 3D world into 5D world, that come forward very clearly and cleanly to assist you in this reality. And as you turn to go back through the same doorway you entered, I'd like to remind you that you can visit this space anytime you like. You are always here. The space is always available for a visit or for more information. And just moving back through the doorway you entered, bringing forward everything that serves your highest good, and feeling very, very grateful for having a loving remembrance of your Atlantean self. I'm going to bring you back into this time and space with a count of 5 to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just taking another nice deep breath and opening your eyes slowly and gently, coming back into the space. I hope you all enjoyed that very, very much. If you want to send me a little note on my YouTube channel under this video and let me know about your experience, that would be fantastic. Past life regressions, soul progressions into other realities, into Atlantis, Lemuria, talking with your guides is something that I really love to do. It's one of my specialties, you could say, in this lifetime. So if there's something that you would like to explore that's associated with another realm or reality, or the Mer world or Atlantis, you can hit me up for a session on my website, ameerabeth.com, under the Work With Me tab. If you would like to go deeper into whatever it is that you're working on in this lifetime, whatever your calling, whatever your purposes, I also have a mentoring, 4-session mentoring series where I help people step deeper into purpose and into power. Be happy to talk with you a little bit more about that. And until the next time we meet, thank you very much for sharing this hour with me. And I will look forward to seeing you again on Tales from the Merworld Radio. Thank you for allowing me to express myself, and aloha.